How would you react if your best friend secretly called you trailer trash? I found out when a junior kid named Jake accidentally forwarded me an email chain. The subject line said valedictorian stuff, and I almost deleted it thinking it was spam. But then I saw Brooke's name, my best friend since 7th grade, the girl who'd slept over at my place every Friday for 3 years. Who knew I kept my college acceptance letter taped to my bedroom wall because I was so proud of it. The email was between her and 2 teachers. I read it twice before it sank in. I just don't think someone from a trailer park should be the face of our graduating class. It's embarrassing. What will the school board think? My hands started shaking. I set my phone down on my kitchen counter and just stared at our microwave for like 10 minutes. See, Brooke and I had been competing for valedictorian all year. We studied together every Tuesday at the library. She'd bring those expensive colored pens and I'd bring gas station snacks. We'd quiz each other on calculus problems until they kicked us out at closing time. I thought we were supporting each other, but suddenly everything made sense. My chemistry notes going missing right before the big test. Rumors that I was cheating on the SATs. My scholarship offer getting delayed for academic review even though my grades were perfect. Brooke had been sabotaging me this whole time. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or cry or make a scene. I just went to school the next day and acted normal. "Hey girl," she said at lunch, sitting across from me with her turkey sandwich. "You seem quiet today, just thinking about graduation stuff," I said, picking at my peanut butter sandwich. The week before graduation, I went to Principal Martinez. Told him I wanted to request something special. "I think Brooke deserves to give a valedictorian speech, too," I said. "We've been so close academically. It would mean a lot if we could share the moment." He looked surprised, but agreed. Dual speeches weren't common, but my grades technically put me first by 0.02 of a point. Brooke was ecstatic when he told her. "This is so amazing." She squealed, hugging me in the hallway. "We get to do this together." I just nodded and hugged her back. Graduation day came. I sat in the front row in my cap and gown watching families fill the football stadium. I spotted my mom in the bleachers wearing the dress she'd bought special for today. She was taking pictures with her phone beaming. When Principal Martinez called us both up, Brooke went first. She gave this beautiful speech about perseverance and friendship and how our class would change the world. Everyone clapped. Some people cried. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the microphone and looked out at the crowd. Found my mom's face in the stands. She gave me a thumbs up. I wasn't going to say anything today. I started. I was raised to keep my mouth shut and work harder when people doubted me. I pulled out my phone, but then I realized some people take your silence as weakness. I started reading the email word for word. My voice stayed steady even though my heart was pounding. The stadium got so quiet you could hear the wind. "I just don't think someone from a trailer park should be the face of our graduating class. It's embarrassing." I looked right at Brooke. She was staring at her shoes, face bright red. Some teachers looked horrified. Parents were whispering. "I may have grown up in a trailer," I continued. "But my words today are mine. Nobody sabotaged them. Nobody took them away. And nobody ever will again." I folded up my phone and looked back at the crowd. "Thank you." The entire stadium exploded. People jumped to their feet clapping. I saw my mom crying in the stands, cheering louder than anyone. As I walked back to my seat, Brooke tried to grab my arm. "Lena, I can explain." I just kept walking. The following week, word got around that Brooke's scholarship had been quietly pulled, something about character concerns, from the selection committee. She texted me dozens of times, called, even showed up at my trailer. I never responded. Never. I found out one random Thursday afternoon when a junior named Jake accidentally forwarded me an email chain. The subject line just said valedictorian stuff, and I almost deleted it, thinking it was a student council update or spam. But then I saw Brooke's name. My best friend since 7th grade. The girl who knew I cried over college essay drafts. Who slept over every Friday for 3 years straight. Who ate dinner at our tiny fold-out table next to my mom. Who knew I kept my college acceptance letter taped to my bedroom wall like a poster. The email was between her and 2 of our teachers. I just don't think someone from a trailer park should be the face of our graduating class. It's embarrassing. What will the school board think? I had to read it twice. My hands started shaking. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter and stared blankly at the microwave for almost 10 minutes, as if it would beep and undo everything. See, Brooke and I had been competing for valedictorian all year, neck and neck. We studied together every Tuesday at the library. She brought those fancy pastel pens. I brought gas station snacks. We quizzed each other on calculus until the librarians had to kick us out. I thought we were pushing each other to be better. I thought it was mutual respect. But suddenly, things started clicking into place. My chemistry notes had gone missing right before a huge test. A few weeks later, a rumor spread that I'd cheated on the SATs. Then my scholarship offer got flagged for academic review, even though my GPA was flawless. Brooke had been sabotaging me, whispering lies, playing innocent, and sitting across from me like nothing was wrong. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't give her that power. The next day at school, I sat across from her at lunch as usual. "Hey girl," she chirped, unwrapping her turkey sandwich. "You seem quiet today." "Just thinking about graduation stuff," I said, picking at my PB&J. A week before graduation, I went to Principal Martinez. "I'd like to make a request," I said. He looked up. "I think Brooke should give a valedictorian speech, too. We've worked so hard together. It would mean a lot to share it." He was surprised, but he agreed. Dual speeches were rare, but my GPA technically put me first, by just 0.02 of a point. Brooke was ecstatic when he told her. "This is so amazing," she squealed, hugging me in the hallway. "We get to do this together." I smiled. Nodded. Let her believe we were still friends. Graduation day came. I sat in the front row in my cap and gown as the stadium filled with families. I spotted my mom in the bleachers wearing the thrift store dress she'd saved up for. She was beaming, phone out, waving like I was famous. When Principal Martinez called us up, Brooke went first. She gave a beautiful speech about perseverance, friendship, and how our class would go on to change the world. Parents clapped. Some cried. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the mic, found my mom's face in the crowd. She gave me a thumbs up. "I wasn't going to say anything today," I began. "I was raised to keep my mouth shut and work harder when people doubted me." I pulled out my phone. My hands didn't shake. But some people take your silence as weakness. Then I read it. Word for word. "I just don't think someone from a trailer park should be the face of our graduating class. It's embarrassing." You could hear a pin drop. I looked directly at Brooke. She was staring at her shoes. Her face matched her red honor cord. "Maybe I grew up in a trailer," I said. "But my words today are mine. My grades are mine. My future is mine. No one sabotaged that. And no one ever will." I folded my phone. Looked back at the crowd. "Thank you." There was a second of silence. Then the entire stadium erupted. Standing ovation. Clapping. Cheering. My mom was crying, hands over her mouth, louder than anyone else. As I walked back to my seat, Brooke tried to grab my arm. "Lena, I can explain." I kept walking. The following week, word spread. Brooke's scholarship had been quietly pulled. Something about character concerns. The committee had received a forwarded copy of that same email chain, anonymously. She texted me, called, even showed up outside our trailer one night, crying on the porch. I never answered. Story 2. On Christmas morning, my niece opened the door and asked, "How many gifts did you bring?" I said, 22. She looked disappointed. "That's 5 less than last year." Mom said. If you bring too little, do not let you in. Then the door closed. I just smiled and put the $14,000 tuition transfer on hold. 30 minutes later, my sister texted, "How could you ruin Christmas?" I just replied. I stood there in the snow with 22 wrapped gifts balanced in my arms. Steam rising from my breath, my boots crunching softly on the icy porch. Christmas morning, my sister's house. Same ritual every year. The front door creaked open. And there she was, my niece, Emma, 9 years old, wearing a shiny green elf costume, complete with curled shoes and a red felt hat that drooped sideways. She didn't say Merry Christmas. She didn't hug me. She didn't even smile. She held a phone in her mittened hand, the screen glowing in the cold light. She looked down, read something, then raised her eyes to meet mine with surgical precision. "Mom said you were supposed to bring 27 gifts," she recited flatly. "You only brought 22. That's 5 less than last year." I blinked. Before I could answer, she added, "Mom also said if you bring too little, I shouldn't let you in." And just like that, the door began to close. Slowly, deliberately. I didn't shout. I didn't knock again. I didn't beg to be let in. I simply turned, carefully placed the bags of gifts. Gifts I spent weeks budgeting and wrapping on the welcome mat, stepped back into the snow, and reached for my phone. No emotion, just calm mechanical clarity. I opened the banking app, found the scheduled tuition payment, $14,000 for Emma's private school, and hit cancel. Transfer on hold. Merry Christmas. I walked back to my car alone. The wind had picked up, pushing little snow devils across the windshield. I didn't drive. I just sat there, hands still on the steering wheel, listening to the faint echoes of carols inside their house. The warm laughter that no longer included me. At 9:43 a.m., my phone lit up. "Sister, how could you ruin Christmas? She's crying." I stared at the message for a long second, then typed, "Me? You said don't come in if I brought too little. I brought respect. You shut the door." I hit send. And for the first time in years, I realized I hadn't ruined Christmas. I had left before someone else could ruin me. I didn't sleep that night. After the door closed on me and my gifts, I drove home in silence. No music, no phone calls, just the sound of tires slicing through fresh snow and the same sentence looping in my mind. Mom said, "If you bring too little, don't let you in." It echoed louder than any Christmas carol. You see, nobody in my family knew the full picture. Not even close to them. I was the reliable one. The golden goose with a steady job, a steady bank account, and most importantly, a steady guilt complex they could mine year-round. But in reality, I was dangling by a thread. Just 3 weeks before Christmas, I'd been called into a meeting with HR. The company was restructuring and my department was being absorbed into another. They offered a vague promise of possible relocation, which really meant start packing. I was still showing up every day, still clocking in, but I knew one slip, one spreadsheet error, one missed deadline, and I was gone. And with the job would go my condo, my health insurance, my carefully stretched credit line. But I didn't tell anyone, not even Mom, because I knew what would happen. The moment I showed vulnerability, my worth to them would plummet. I wouldn't be useful anymore. And in this family, being useful was the only way to be wanted. Mom had begged me to come to Christmas this year. Her voice over the phone had that soft, pleading tone she reserved for when she wanted something wrapped in concern. "Sweetheart, you know they won't admit it, but they do want to see you, especially Emma. She's been talking about your gifts all month." I hesitated. I told her I might be too tired, too busy, too broke. But then she hit me with "Without you, there's no Christmas spirit in the house. You know that." I should have said no. I should have let the silence be my RSVP. But I didn't because, like in Fool, I still wanted to be needed. Still wanted to believe that maybe this year things would feel different. Last year was the final straw. Or at least it should have been. I brought 30 gifts to that house. Spent my entire December bonus, plus some of January's rent to get Emma the art set she wanted, the shoes she'd cried over, and a Switch console with the exact game she asked for, each wrapped with ribbons and notes signed from Uncle. And yet, when the family gathered around the tree, Emma ran toward a box she'd clearly recognized. She opened it and squealed, "Daddy got it for me." I froze. Her father, my deadbeat ex-brother, hadn't sent a card in years, but now he was suddenly Santa. Sister didn't correct her. In fact, she smiled and said, "He's trying harder now. See, maybe he's growing up." Meanwhile, I sat there with Coco in one hand and my pride in the other, watching my gesture be quietly erased. Gift receipts still in my coat pocket. That was the moment I learned. In our family, truth is optional, but image is everything. That became even clearer in March when my sister called crying. "I don't know what to do. The tuition deadline is this week, and Emma loves that school. Please, you're the only one who can help. Just a small loan, just for this term," so I paid it for $1,000. Gone with a tap and a sigh. In June, it was the dog. Emma's Yorkie Muffin had torn a ligament or something. Surgery was only $2,600. "You know how attached she is," my sister sobbed. "If something happens to Muffin, Emma will never recover emotionally. You don't want that on your conscience, do you?" No, I didn't want that. So, I paid. Then, September came. "A short-term cash flow issue," she said. "Just till the new job kicks in." I wired her another $2,000. And now, my credit card was maxed. My savings were dust. I was juggling 3 payment plans and had just received my second warning letter from the bank about late mortgage payments. I was underwater and they were still swimming in champagne. Meanwhile, my sister was posting on Instagram like she was a self-made mogul. Her feed was a curated museum of lies. Photos of Emma at private school orientation with captions like #ProudMama, #investing in her future. Pictures of Muffin and a tiny cast. #FurBaby, #worth every penny. A selfie in front of a Christmas tree that I bought for her last year. #SingleMomMagic, I always make it work, and my favorite. Some people rely on others. I hustle all while she drained me like a monthly subscription service. That's why this year I debated skipping it. I had one foot out the door, but Mom pulled me back. "She's your sister. It's Christmas. Come on, do it for the kids." And so I showed up with 22 gifts, which apparently wasn't enough. Let me say this loud and clear. I wasn't punished for giving too little. I was punished for finally drawing a line. The real reason she was furious: I stopped being her safety net. Stopped playing the role of silent investor in her fairy tale. Now that the money was gone, now that the gifts were short by 5, suddenly I wasn't family anymore. Suddenly, I was ruining Christmas. But here's the irony. They never saw coming. The door they shut in my face wasn't just physical. It was symbolic. And on the other side of that door, in the snow and silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. It had been 3 days since the door closed on me. Since I stood in the snow holding 22 gifts, only to be told they weren't enough. 3 days since my sister turned my love into a transaction again. I thought the worst had already happened. But then the letter arrived. No return address, just my name in small block letters on a plain white envelope. I opened it at my kitchen table, still in my coat, still half asleep. At first, I thought it was junk mail. Then I unfolded the paper and saw the handwriting. No greeting, no signature, just one sentence. "She's telling people you're unstable and dangerous, that Emma shouldn't be around you." My throat tightened. I read it again and again. At first, I wanted to believe it was a sick joke, a prank, a mistake. But something inside me knew it was true because the silence after Christmas had been deafening. No thank you for the gifts I left. No apology. No call from Mom. No video of Emma opening the presents on the porch. Just a cold, calculated wall. And now this note, a whisper of the slander they were feeding others while pretending I had vanished. I sat at the table, eyes on the paper, heart pounding like a war drum. Dangerous. Unstable. This family had leaned on me for years. I'd paid for tuition, dog surgeries, emergency bills. I'd sat through their tantrums, smiled through their insults, swallowed their entitlement. And now, because I finally said enough, they needed a story to justify cutting me out. So, they painted me as the villain. But they made one mistake. They forgot what I do for a living. You see, I'm not just some corporate nobody. I work in compliance. I investigate financial inconsistencies. My entire job is pattern recognition, audit trails, asset verification, and in that moment, I stopped being the heartbroken uncle. I became something else entirely. I logged into my credit monitoring app, started combing through the last year. At first, everything looked normal, but then I found it. A $9,800 loan taken out from a private education lender under my name using my birth date with a phone number that looked eerily similar to mine off by one digit. I froze the application date. 2 weeks after I wired the money for Emma's tuition, which meant someone had access to my financial information around that time, and then I remembered when I paid the school directly, my sister had said, "Just send me a copy of your ID and a confirmation. They need proof of who's covering it for records." Like a fool, I had sent it all unredacted. I kept digging. Another loan, smaller, $3,500 from a veterinary credit program. Again, my name slightly altered address. Same fraudulent phone number. There were 4 in total for loans totaling over $17,000. All under my name, all siphoned off into educational or medical expenses. All triggered after a phone call from my sister. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even reply to the text she sent that afternoon, pretending nothing had happened. Emma is still upset. She doesn't understand why you left her gifts outside. Can you at least call her? That was her tactic. Frame me as emotionally cruel. Distract from what she'd done. But this time, I didn't play her game. Instead, I made a call of my own to a former colleague, one who now worked at the Financial Fraud and Identity Protection Bureau. I sent her everything. Screenshots, loan confirmations, phone records, the anonymous letter. She called me back that evening. Her voice was tight. "You need to file a fraud report immediately. This is textbook familial identity theft. And it looks like she's been doing this strategically." How strategically? We'll know more soon. But from what I'm seeing, she's not just using your info. She's laundering it through education and medical categories to avoid triggering standard alerts. That's advanced. I felt my stomach drop. My sister, my own flesh and blood, using my name, my credit, my silence to build a life she could brag about on Instagram. Within 48 hours, a formal investigation was underway. A freeze was placed on the known loan accounts. All tuition transfers from my name were flagged. Then came the email from the school. As per financial review request, we've suspended Emma's scholarship account pending identity verification. Please provide updated sponsor documentation. She must have felt it immediately because 2 days later she called. Not texted, called. The screen lit up. Sister Mobile. I let it ring. She tried again, then again. Then I got a voicemail. "What are you doing? Why is Emma's tuition account frozen? Why are people asking about loans in your name? What is going on then?" The tears. "I don't know what you think I did, but Emma is the one suffering. You're punishing a child. No, you used a child to shield your lies. You exploited my love for her as a tool, and now the castle you built on my back was starting to crumble." A week later, her accounts were under audit. Emma's education fund was frozen. The veterinary clinic that treated Muffin flagged for suspicious billing. And me. I was quiet, but I wasn't gone. I'd spent years trying to prove I was a good brother, a good uncle, a good son, all while being drained, belittled, erased. Now I was doing something new. I was protecting myself, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. 2 weeks after I held back that $14,000 transfer, Emma's enrollment at the private academy was officially suspended. No tuition, no seat. My sister, who once bragged about being a single super mom making it happen, was now standing in front of the head administrator being questioned over inconsistencies in Emma's financial records, loans, payments, account sponsors that didn't match up. She tried to keep her calm, according to a former parent at the school who messaged me privately. She kept saying it was all a misunderstanding, that you were bitter about some family argument, but then they showed her the flag loan applications. The school's tone changed instantly. They weren't just investigating her anymore. They were reporting everything to the Department of Financial Protection because what she did wasn't just family drama anymore. It was fraud, institutional, documented. The next blow came from inside our own family group chat. It was the same chat where I'd been quiet for months, ignored unless someone needed something. The same chat where I'd shared Emma's birthday photos, bought Mom a new couch, sent early payments just in case. I woke up one morning to find it buzzing. Mom, what is going on? Emma can't go back to school. Cousin Jess, you froze her tuition? Are you serious? Aunt Linda, she's 9. You don't punish children. Sister, I told you he's dangerous. He's always had issues. Then came the dagger. Uncle Mike. Wait, did you actually take out loans under his name? Because that's what the school is saying. Silence for 20 minutes. Then I wrote one line. Me. I didn't ruin Emma's life. I just stopped funding the lies you told to build yours. That was the turning point. Messages started flying, but they weren't directed at me anymore. They were directed at her. Cousin Jess. Wait, is that why you posted #BlessedMama all year while asking me for money for the dog? Aunt Linda, I sent you $500 last March because you said you were behind on rent. Uncle Mike, you told us Olvo was helping you because you deserved it, not because you were stealing. Then one by one, they started leaving the chat. Some didn't say anything. Others left messages. You need help. Don't call me again. We were raised better than this. That afternoon, her Instagram disappeared. No more daily posts of hand-packed lunches. No more single mom warrior captions. No more Emma is heading to Harvard one day. #S gone, deleted like it had all been built for an audience she couldn't lie to anymore. At 6:47 p.m. that evening, I received a voice message, not a call, not a text, a shaky 48-second voice recording that opened with heavy breathing and a barely contained sob. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just desperate. I didn't know how else to keep everything together. Emma deserves better than what I can give her alone. I know it wasn't right. I know I crossed lines, but you know what it's like. We grew up in the same house. I just wanted her to have a chance, a real shot. Please don't send this to anyone. I needed you to hear me. Just you. I listened once, then a second time. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer because this wasn't about guilt or punishment anymore. This was about protection. Protection from manipulation, from emotional manipulation, from a system where I was always the backup plan, the fallback account, the invisible wallet. She didn't want forgiveness. She wanted another out. And for the first time in years, I didn't offer her one. The next morning, I went for a walk. The snow had melted. Leftover pine needles still scattered the sidewalks, remnants of discarded Christmas trees. I passed by a family on the porch, laughing as they took down decorations. I smiled, not because I was happy, not because things were fixed, but because I finally felt clean. I didn't need to prove I was a good uncle, a good brother, a good son. All I had to do was stop financing my own eraser. That afternoon, Mom called. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She just said, I didn't know the full story. I'm sorry. We should have asked you what was really happening. And then, do you still want to come over this weekend? I bought extra coffee. You're kind. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said, I'll think about it. Because maybe this time, I finally had a choice. The for ale sign outside my apartment had been covered in snow for weeks. The real estate agent called on a Tuesday morning with a firm offer, lower than I'd hoped, but enough. Enough to pay off the personal loan I took out last year for Emma's private school. Enough to settle the lingering credit card debt I carried from emergency family expenses that were never really mine. Enough to walk away with my name and my sanity intact. I signed the papers, boxed up the life I used to live, packed everything into the back of my rusting SUV, every photograph, every receipt, every small object I once thought proved I was a good brother, a good uncle, a good son. I left the keys on the counter, closed the door behind me, and never looked back. The new city wasn't glamorous. No skyline, no subway system, just quiet streets, brick buildings, people who minded their own business, and a job that came with no spotlight, but plenty of peace. It wasn't the high-paying position I had before. The office was smaller. The title was humbler, but the difference, respect. My boss shook my hand on day one and said, "Here, no one expects you to carry more than your share." We lift evenly, and just like that, I breathed for the first time in years. December came quickly. Christmas lights tangled in tree branches, shop windows filled with blinking reindeer and cheap snowmen. But this year, I didn't make a wish list. I didn't plan a road trip. I didn't buy 27 gifts or check shipping dates or send frantic texts asking for addresses. I simply made a reservation at a local cafe. Dinner for one. No pressure. No expectations. The place was nearly empty. A few other quiet people scattered across tables. Some old, some young. All of us gently orbiting each other in soft silence. A waiter in a Santa tie brought out my plate. Roast chicken, sweet potatoes, a slice of warm pecan pie. I looked out the window. Snow began to fall. And for once, I wasn't waiting for anyone to open a door. At 8:17 p.m., my phone buzz. A message from Mom. "Emma made you a drawing. It's of the two of you building that snow fort from 2 years ago. She wants to talk to you. Just talk." Below it was a photo, a crayon sketch, a stick figure, uncle with a scarf, kneeling beside a lopsided fort, a little girl beside him holding a flag that read, "Twos." My thumb hovered over the screen. I stared at the image until my eyes blurred. So much love in a child's hand. So much damage in the choices of the adults around her. I didn't reply, not out of spite, not out of anger, but because I finally understood something I had missed all those years. You can love someone and still walk away. You can protect your peace without punishing theirs. You can choose healing without needing an apology. I paid the bill, thanked the waiter, stepped out into the cold. The wind bit at my cheeks, but it felt real, not cruel. I passed a street corner where a man was strumming a slow guitar melody. He didn't ask for change. He didn't even look up. Just kept playing like the world owed him nothing, and he was okay with that. I dropped a bill in his case and smiled. He nodded back. No names, no history, just two strangers sharing a quiet moment. Back in my apartment, small but warm, I took off my coat and sat by the window, watching snowflakes swirl beneath a street lamp. I didn't decorate, no tree, no stockings, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, not excitement, just honesty, no pretending, no performances, just me. The phone screen lit up again. Another message from Mom. She says, "Merry Christmas, and she misses you." I stared at the blinking cursor, the open space inviting me in. But instead of typing, I closed my eyes, took a breath, let the silence settle like snow, and whispered to myself, "This year, I chose a gift no one expected. Not a toy, not a tuition payment, not another sacrifice dressed as love. I chose me.